Nobody at the bar is going to bring up Transformers, but they should, because right now, a rusty piece of electrical equipment the size of a school bus is worth more strategically than half the chatbots you have ever used. Forget the headlines about who has the smartest chatbot this month. Forget the benchmark charts. The real race is not about which country builds the best AI model. It is about who controls the physical machinery that lets AI actually touch the real world. Electricity, power grids, transformers, data centers, chips, batteries, robots, factories. That is the race that decides who wins the next 20 years, and almost nobody is talking about it the right way. Here is the thing that should stop you cold. A large language model, even the best one on the planet, is basically useless sitting inside a data center with no power. It cannot train, it cannot run, it cannot scale into your car, your factory, your hospital, or your city. The model is the easy part now. The hard part, the part that costs hundreds of billions of dollars and takes a decade to build, is the physical stack underneath it. And that is exactly where this story gets interesting, because while everyone was staring at chatbots, one country quietly started building the entire industrial body that AI needs to actually live inside. Let us call this what it is. There are two races happening at the same time, and most people only see one of them. The race everyone sees is the flashy one. ChatGPT versus DeepSeek, OpenAI versus Google Gemini, Anthropic's Claude versus xAI's Grok. New model, new benchmark, new headline, repeat every few weeks. It is loud, it is easy to cover, and it makes for a great thumbnail. But underneath that noise, there is a second race, a quieter one. And this is the one that actually determines who wins. This race is about electricity generation. It is about high voltage transformers and power grids. It is about data centers, semiconductor manufacturing, battery production, rare earth processing, industrial robotics, smart factories, and full-scale manufacturing ecosystems. This second race is not glamorous. Nobody makes a viral clip out of a transformer factory. But this is the race that decides whether any of those flashy AI models can ever actually be deployed at a scale that changes the real economy. Think about it like this. Owning a brilliant AI model without the industrial base to run it is like owning the fastest race car engine ever built, but no factory that can produce the car around it, no fuel supply chain, and no roads wide enough to drive it on. The engine is impressive on a stage. It means nothing on the street. That is the trap the United States may be walking into, and it is the opportunity China is building its entire national strategy around. So let us start with the golden fact, the one number that should genuinely alarm anyone paying attention to American infrastructure. Reporting from Reuters has confirmed that the United States is now facing a serious shortage of high-voltage transformers. These are not small parts. Lead times for some of this equipment have stretched out to multiple years. Multiple years just to get the hardware that moves electricity from a power plant to a data center. At the exact moment American companies are racing to build massive AI computing clusters, the physical equipment needed to power those clusters is stuck in a supply chain traffic jam. The White House has had to step in directly, trying to coordinate utility companies and data center developers just to figure out how to fund and build enough power infrastructure to keep up with demand. Let that sink in. The country leading the world in AI software development is being slowed down by something as unglamorous as a shortage of electrical transformers. Now flip over to China and the contrast is almost uncomfortable. China's newest 5-year economic blueprint places something they call AI Plus at the center of national policy. Not AI as a standalone software product. AI plus manufacturing, AI plus logistics, AI plus healthcare, AI plus practically every major industrial sector in the country. And it is not just policy language on paper. China is pushing hyperscale computing clusters that are directly linked to abundant electricity generation, meaning power and computing are being built together as one connected system, instead of computing racing ahead while power struggles to catch up like it is doing in America. This is the difference between a country building a brain and a country building a brain. A nervous system, muscles, and a skeleton all at the same time. One approach produces a smarter and smarter head with a weaker and weaker body. The other approach produces a complete organism that can actually move, work, and scale in the physical world. Let us talk about robots, because this is where the numbers get almost hard to believe. According to the International Federation of Robotics, China had over 2 million industrial robots operating inside its factories in the year 2024. 2 million robots already installed, already working. And in that same year alone, China installed close to 300,000 new industrial robots, which accounted for 54%, more than half, of every single industrial robot installed anywhere on planet Earth that year. Picture that for a second. More than 1 out of every 2 new industrial robots put to work anywhere in the world in 2024 went into a Chinese factory. That is not a country dabbling in automation. That is a country that has made automation the default setting of its entire manufacturing base. Why does that matter for the AI race specifically? Because robots and smart factories are where artificial intelligence actually earns its money. An AI model that writes a clever email is a novelty. An AI system that runs a factory floor with 2 million robotic arms, adjusting production in real time, optimizing supply chains, and manufacturing everything from electric vehicle batteries to semiconductor components. That is AI creating trillions of dollars of real economic output. China is not just building robots for the sake of automation. It is building the exact physical environment where AI transforms from a chat window into an economic weapon. Now let us talk about batteries, because this is the part of the story most car enthusiasts watching this channel are going to feel personally. Official Chinese data shows that lithium-ion battery output in China climbed above 473 gigawatt hours in just the first 4 months of the year 2025. That is a 68% increase compared to the same period the year before. 68% growth in battery output alone in just 4 months. To put that in a scale a driver can understand, that amount of battery capacity is enough to build millions upon millions of electric vehicle battery packs. This is not a supply chain relying on emergency imports. This is a domestic battery ecosystem so deep and so fast growing that it is becoming one of the foundational layers underneath the entire electrified, automated, AI-driven industrial system China is assembling. And this connects directly back to the AI race in a way people rarely explain clearly. Batteries are not just for cars. They are essential for grid stability, for energy storage, for keeping massive AI data centers running without interruption. A country that dominates battery manufacturing is not just winning the electric vehicle war, it is quietly securing one of the critical components needed to keep an AI-powered economy electrified and stable. Let us bring the companies into this, because every one of them is a puzzle piece in the same picture, not a separate story. NVIDIA sits at the center of AI compute, its processors powering the training and operation of most of the world's advanced AI models. TSMC, the Taiwanese chip manufacturing giant, is the critical link that turns advanced chip designs into physical silicon, meaning the entire global AI industry quietly depends on how much manufacturing capacity TSMC can produce. Tesla, and this might surprise some of you, is no longer just a car company in this story. Tesla represents robotics, automation, battery technology, and manufacturing systems, all wrapped into one company, which is exactly why its factories matter as much as its cars. On the Chinese side, CATL and BYD are not simply competitors trying to sell electric vehicles. They are the backbone of the battery and electrification base that China's entire industrial strategy is being built on top of. Huawei continues to matter far beyond phones, playing a central role in telecommunications, chip development, and enterprise technology substitution as China pushes for self-reliance. Alibaba and Tencent function as the cloud and platform layer, the infrastructure that helps convert raw AI models into actual applications people and businesses use every day. Foxconn represents something almost invisible but massively important: the physical manufacturing and electronics assembly capacity required to actually build the hardware that AI and automation depend on. Then there are the classic industrial automation names: ABB, Siemens, and Rockwell. Companies that most people outside of manufacturing have probably never heard of, but which sit at the exact intersection where AI meets the factory floor. These companies build the control systems and automation technology that connect artificial intelligence software to physical machines that weld metal, move parts, and assemble products. Meanwhile, Amazon and Microsoft continue running much of the cloud and AI infrastructure inside the United States, and OpenAI and xAI remain the visible face of the frontier model race that grabs all the headlines, while the deeper industrial race unfolds quietly underneath them. Here's a question worth sitting with for a moment. Why is electricity, something that has existed for over a century, suddenly becoming one of the most strategically valuable resources on the planet? Why are transformers, boring pieces of electrical hardware nobody thought about 5 years ago, now becoming equipment so scarce that governments are getting directly involved in their supply chains? The answer is simple once you see it clearly. Every single advanced AI model, no matter how intelligent, is fundamentally a power-hungry machine. Training and running these systems requires staggering amounts of electricity, and that electricity has to physically travel through transformers, substations, and power grids before it ever reaches a single server. The smartest AI system in the world is completely helpless the moment the power grid cannot keep up with it. So why are batteries suddenly part of an artificial intelligence conversation? Because batteries stabilize the grid, store excess renewable energy, and keep massive data centers running without interruption when demand spikes. Why are robots suddenly part of the AI conversation? Because robots are how AI actually reaches into the physical world and creates value beyond answering questions on a screen. And why do factories matter so much? Because a factory equipped with AI-driven automation is not just a building that makes products anymore. It is a live, adaptive, intelligent platform, adjusting itself constantly, and that is a fundamentally different kind of asset than a traditional factory ever was. To be fair to the United States, because this is not a simple story of one side winning everything, America still holds enormous advantages that should not be dismissed. The country remains the clear leader in frontier AI software development, in advanced chip design, in cloud computing infrastructure, and in the research institutions and universities that continue to produce breakthrough after breakthrough. American capital markets remain unmatched in their ability to fund massive, high-risk technology bets. The frontier model ecosystem, meaning the most advanced and capable AI systems available today, is still overwhelmingly centered around American companies and American research talent. In battery manufacturing, China holds a commanding global lead in scale and supply chain depth. In rare earth processing, China maintains significantly stronger control over the refining and processing capabilities that feed motors, power systems, and defense technology. And in industrial robotics and manufacturing automation, China's installed base and annual growth rate now dramatically outpace the rest of the world combined. Laid out side by side like that, you start to see the real shape of this competition. It is not one race, it is 14 or 15 overlapping races happening simultaneously. And the country that wins the conversation about chatbots is not automatically the country winning the deeper industrial contest underneath it. So here is the provocative question worth arguing about in the comments below this video. If China continues building the physical industrial base, the power generation, the batteries, the robots, the factories, faster than the United States can clear its own transformer shortages and grid bottlenecks, does it actually matter who has the smarter chatbot? Or does raw industrial capacity eventually overwhelm software cleverness? The same way a massive, well-organized army with average weapons can eventually outlast a smaller, brilliantly equipped force running low on supplies. Drop your answer below, because this is exactly the kind of question that is going to define the next decade of technological competition. And honestly, reasonable people disagree hard on this one. So let us bring this back to something you can actually picture in your own driveway. Every electric vehicle you have ever considered buying, every advanced driver assistance system, every future robotic factory building the next generation of cars, batteries, and components, all of it depends on this exact industrial foundation. The transformers that power the plants, the batteries that store and stabilize the energy, the robots that assemble the vehicles, the chips that run the software inside them. This is not some abstract geopolitical argument happening far away from your life. This is the invisible infrastructure quietly determining what shows up in your garage 5 or 10 years from now, how much it costs, and which country's industrial ecosystem actually built it. China may or may not end up building the single best AI model on the planet. That particular contest is still genuinely open, and America's lead there remains real for now. But make no mistake about the bigger game being played here. China is investing enormous national resources into building the complete physical industrial system, the power generation, the transformers, the semiconductors, the batteries, the robotics, and the manufacturing ecosystem that will ultimately determine who can actually deploy artificial intelligence at the largest possible scale across the real economy. The future of AI will not be decided only by clever software running in a chat window. It will be decided by whoever controls the factories, the energy, the chips, the batteries, and the robots standing behind it. And that is a competition far bigger and far more consequential than any chatbot benchmark could ever capture. So the next time somebody tells you China is losing the AI race because its chatbot did not win some benchmark test last week, ask them a different question instead. Ask them who is building the power grid, the batteries, and the robots that will actually run the next 20 years of global industry, because that is the race that really matters. And to make sure you are never caught off guard by what is coming next in this industry, join us here at Driven to Distraction.